Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Green Room Podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and today joining me is Steve Helwick, college football writer for SB Nation and Underdog Dynasty. Steve, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. We're in July, just 1 month to college football season, already looking at those week 0, week 1 games, and can't get more excited about them.
Yeah, it's almost August. I consider August the real start because everybody starts off fall camp, and so then we really start getting into the weeds. But July is an interesting time because a lot of people, some people take vacations, all this stuff. I use it to try to get to know the schedule a lot better. Like I'm doing that with my LSU stuff, North Texas stuff, everything. And so when we looked at this schedule, the American Athletic Conference schedule specifically, it's like, all right, how are we going to get to know all these teams in a brief amount of period? But yeah, so I want to talk the American Athletic Conference schedule with you. We'll get into that in a bit, but I guess to start off, what are your overall thoughts? Look, AAC, obviously, losing those top four or top three is substantial, but you replace it with 6 Conference USA teams. So it's maybe not as top heavy, but I think from a depth perspective, it's still pretty competitive.
I would agree with that. The thing about the AAC is it pretty much has an automatic New Year's Six Bowl bid because that group of 5 bid has gone to the AAC every single year since 2017. The last non-AAC team to make it to the New Year's Six was 2016 Western Michigan, which had to go undefeated and have a not as great AAC champion, a Temple team that came in with 3-4 losses that year, won the conference. So it's been a while since the AAC didn't have that New Year's Six bid. I'm wondering if that could be in jeopardy this year, considering the rise of the Sun Belt. We've seen the Sun Belt be pretty top heavy in recent years with Troy, South Alabama playing really well last year, James Madison,
Coastal.
and Louisiana's been good in recent years. Coastal Carolina has had some double-digit win seasons under Jamie Chadwell before he left. So I'm wondering if the AAC still has that bid this year. Now, I think that they will have 2 teams in the preseason AP Top 25, and that would be an incumbent member in Tulane and a new member in UTSA who returns a lot from a team that's won 2 straight CUSA championships. So I do think that the AAC does have some of those top teams that can compete for that New Year's Six Bowl this year. And overall, I would say the depth is good. There's some teams, Memphis's and SMU's that return that I feel like should get around the at least 7, 8, 9 win range this year. So it's an interesting conference to look at as a whole. And then at the bottom, you have your Charlottes and South Floridas are teams that are trying to work the transfer portal, maybe build on something after having a few losing seasons in a row. So it's an interesting conference, adding about half of the conference is new members, about 6 out of the 14 teams. So it's definitely a transient time for college football and for this conference as a whole. So I think this season and seeing the schedule play out will be pretty interesting.
I like how you brought up naturally just the comparison of this American to the American Conference to the Sun Belt, because that was actually something I'd written down for later in the podcast, but we can just jump to it right now. It's the Sun Belt to me, obviously, they have some former Conference USA schools as well with Marshall. Old Dominion's over there too, right?
Yeah, and Southern Miss.
And Southern Miss, there's the other one. So it's an interesting dynamic where you have the Conference USA schools kind of splitting and going this other way. I will say from the American perspective, North Texas specifically, we're looking at it as, all right, there's no more like UTEPs, La Techs, those bottom kind of teams as much. Now, like you said, Rice and Charlotte. I don't know a ton about USF, but obviously they've gone through their stretches of Charlie Strong and other coaches. But still, overall, I feel like the middle of it, like even working to the top, where East Carolina should be a competitive team every year, and we'll go through the schedule, North Texas schedule in a bit. But like if FAU can get back to not even where they were under Lane Kiffin, but to an 8-win, 7-8-win program, I think there's enough talent in Florida to be competitive. I don't know anything about how consistent Navy is as a program. Temple, I don't know anything about. So that's kind of where my knowledge is. Tulsa, I know a little bit about, but overall, that's kind of where my knowledge is of the American right now. I think that's where a lot of North Texas fans are.
Yeah, and some of those teams, Navy you mentioned earlier, that was a team that was very consistent. They had the same coach for almost 2 decades, and Ken Niumatalolo decided to go in a different direction this offseason and hiring their defensive coordinator, Brian Newberry, to succeed him. So there's a lot of coaching changes in this conference this year, especially with the new teams. You have 4 of the 6 new teams replacing coaches. Only UTSA's Jeff Traylor and Rice's Mike Bloomgren
Mm-hmm.
return for the teams that are transitioning from the CUSA. Then you have South Florida getting Alex Golish from Tennessee, who ran that Josh Heupel style offense there. So there's going to be about half the conference is new coaches this year, which makes for an interesting development. Tulsa is another team. They had Philip Montgomery kind of spinning wheels for a year. Other than that 2020 pandemic season, they never really got off the ground after 2016. So they have Kevin Wilson, the former Indiana coach, who was an offensive coordinator at Ohio State, replacing him. So there are a lot of new coaches competing in this conference. So that's one thing advantage that Willie Fritz and Jeff Traylor have in their contender programs is they have continuity, not just with the roster personnel, but they have continuity with the coaching staff. So you have a lot of teams that are starting fresh this year, not only in terms of a new conference, a new look conference, but in a new coaching staff.
I know you wrote a story on the 6 incoming Conference USA schools. Which one intrigues you the most? And you can pick any. You don't have to pick North Texas because we'll talk about North Texas plenty. But which one intrigues you the most of the incoming Conference USA schools?
Well, UTSA is a team that I just think is a contender, and I think I
Mhm.
know what UTSA is, but a team that probably I would say intrigues me the most is FAU. That was a team that missed a bowl game. They had Willie Taggart for 3 seasons, and they did not have a winning record once under the Taggart era. But I think this is a team that could actually compete for the conference title this year. I wouldn't put them in the Tulane UTSA category yet, maybe not even SMU category, but I really like a lot of what FAU has. Tom Herman, he has succeeded everywhere he went. He never had a
Mhm.
losing season at Texas, and the coaches on either side of him, Charlie Strong and Steve Sarkisian, can't claim the same thing. And he has had a New Year's Six bowl victory within 2 years on the job in both Texas and Houston. He is no stranger to quick turnarounds at his programs. He's coming with a quarterback he's really familiar with, Casey Thompson. He was
Yep.
pretty good quarterback despite playing on teams with losing records the last 2 years in Texas and Nebraska. I thought Thompson was a pretty good quarterback, and I think he's going to be a really helpful piece to jumpstart this FAU offense. I love their backfield, Larry McCannon and Kobe Lewis, 2 guys that have had 1,000-yard seasons in the past. And LaJohntay Wester is a really good number 1 receiving option. FAU's offensive line, they were pretty good last year, allowing less than 1.2 sacks per game. They return about 2.5 of those starters. I like everything that's going in their direction on offense. They've done the transfer portal really well there. Defensively, there's some work to be done. They didn't really have a strong linebacking core last year. There was a lot to be desired in the front seven for FAU. They didn't really have a premier pass rusher either. So I want to see more growth from them on a defensive perspective in that area. But overall, I do think that FAU, just with offense alone, can really be a team that competes in this new look AAC despite not having a winning record for the last 3 years.
Yeah, it feels like FAU is always going to have the talent. That's the hard part is that when you're in Florida like that, they're just you saw Lane Kiffin run in there and just get all the talent, and then just he's a great coach too, so it helps. But I'm interested to see that. All right, we're gonna go through the schedule in a bit, but before we do that, I do want your thoughts on North Texas as a program, as a market, on them joining the AAC, and just what you kind of think of them as a team at this point. Because I like getting outside, opinions to what we watch every day.
Well, I remember there was a time in the Seth Luttrell era around 2018 where I really thought North Texas could. There was a point I think that season where I thought they were going to go undefeated. It was either 2018 or 17 and maybe compete for a New Year's Six spot. And then 2019 really felt like a huge disappointment to go 4-8 that year when they might have been projected first or second in
Yeah,
the
they were.
preseason CUSA poll. So with Mason Fine and that team, they seem to have so much going for them. And in the last few years, North Texas has just made slow improvements, but it wasn't enough for Seth Luttrell to keep his job. I was really impressed by the team's poise in that 2021 season to go from 1-6 to make a bowl game after that. And then last year, they started off the middle of the season, I think, went pretty well as they made this USA title game before losing to UTSA in there. And then they were pretty competitive in that Frisco Bowl, 35-32 against Boise State last year before the floodgates opened and all and transfers left. And I thought the team did a really good job of staying together through that. But North Texas in the present, I'm a bit intrigued by them. They don't have Austin Aune anymore. I liked some of Chandler Rogers' game at ULM. He'll be surrounded by a lot more talent this year, I feel like, at North Texas. And I think Rogers could be a pretty good quarterback for that number one role. They lost a couple transfers, Jair Shorter, Jake Roberts, that I think were huge pieces on offense. And my biggest question for North Texas this season is, what's the passing game going to look like? Because last year, North Texas needed a top 40 passing game, I felt like, to complement that running game in order to be a 500 team, because the defense was pretty atrocious. They were, I think, bottom 10, bottom 15 in total defense, with ranking 110th or below in both passing and rushing defense. So they didn't really have advantages on either side. They lose their best defender in KD Davis. So I have a lot of questions on what this defense is going to look like under a new defensive coordinator after Phil Bennett leaves. So I'm a bit skeptical on North Texas on the defensive end. I mean, they still have, I think, 2 first-team All-USA talents, Amazon Richards and Rich Teata. So they do have the foundation to work with. I really need to see more from the linebacker room, especially after the departure of KD Davis, to get a good grasp on this defense. But if there's one thing that gives me hope about North Texas this season, I think their running game can be a top 20 unit again. You have all 4 of those running backs in that stable returning, and Ragsdale, Adeye, Isaiah Johnson, Oscar Attaway. I can't believe not one went to the transfer portal.
Yeah, me neither.
They're starting caliber running backs, I feel like, for a lot of schools, and we've seen all of them have their own shine before, and all of them are running it back in this 4-horse stable. So I think this rushing attack is something that can get North Texas really off the ground and get them a few wins this year, because I have some question marks in other areas just because there's so much turnover with the roster and with the coaching staff, and their only coach that they really retained was their running backs coach.
Yeah. The interesting thing to me is Seth Luttrell's offenses after Mason Fine were run first, run heavy, kind of play action stuff off of that. That's why they had these big receivers that like Jair Shorter that had like 23 catches for 12 touchdowns. And now they still have that kind of personnel where it's geared to the run game a little bit. Their receiving core is good. They have some guys that'll step up, a new look quarterback there. But like, this is a different coach with a different scheme, right? And so now with Morris as the coach, how is he going to use this personnel to, mold it into his style offense? Because, at Incarnate Word, Washington State, like all of that, he was very much a quarterback guy, right? He's Patrick Mahomes' coach. He's a quarterback guy. So how is he going to use these running backs? Like, I'm interested to see how the balance is between run and pass with Morris specifically.
Yeah, especially as a Mike Leach disciple, as you mentioned.
Exactly.
See what the passing attempts look like per game, because they had an offense kind of similar to UAB, it felt like, where you'd have receivers have stat lines like 4 catches, 125 yards, and 2 touchdowns a game. And that was kind of what Darren Hinshaw did at UAB last year, which just a lot of running attack with, they had Dwayne McBride. And then when it was pass, it was just fly routes, deep posts, just going for the home run ball. So I'm wondering if North Texas this year kind of favors more of a shorter passing game, as we've seen with Mike Leach teams, as Eric Morris comes from that background, and see how Roderick Burns and company kind of adjust to that.
Yeah. All right, let's go through the schedule. We're going to go through the AAC schedule. You've already hit on a couple of these teams pretty well. So, you don't have to rehash everything you said about them. But here's the 8-game schedule. I will just go team by team real quick. You can give your thoughts, how good you think they're going to be this year. And we'll go from there. So we'll start with Navy. You already kind of touched on it, but what are your thoughts on Navy this year?
I don't think we'll see much of a change in scheme with Kenya Matalolo leaving. they're going to run the triple option still. This is a team that was pretty sound on defense last year, and their defensive coordinator, Brian Newberry, becomes their head coach. I think they return 8 starters on defense, and they still have their quarterback and running back combo, Daba Fafana, who should be one of the better running backs in the AAC, as he's their feature guy in the triple option. So I do think that Navy is going to retain a lot of the talent they had last year. I mean, it's not a college that involves a transfer portal much, but Navy's been really intriguing to me because they come out slow every single season, and then they'll catch teams by surprise. They beat UCF last year. They came within 3 points of Notre Dame. They were a team that they lost to an FCS team, Delaware, to start the season. We remember in 2020 when they lost to who was it? A BYU on the opener.
Oh, yeah.
55-3, and then the next year they lost to Marshall in the opener 49-7. So this is a team that's really come out slow. So you don't get them at the optimal time. You get them first week of October instead. So Navy's always a team that can catch teams by surprise. It's never a clear win. And we saw that when they went to Orlando last year and took out UCF just by having a strong defense and possessing the ball and killing time of possession. So those offenses that want to run quick, up-tempo, don't really do a good job against Navy because their offenses aren't on the field too long if they want to run the style they want to.
Yeah, and there's so much about North Texas that we don't know. So it's hard to like predict matchups and stuff like this. But when North Texas fans go through this schedule, I think a lot of them, including myself to a degree, it's like, all right, they got to beat Navy. Got to beat Navy, got to beat Temple, got to beat Tulsa. And that'll get you to 3 wins right there, and maybe you can win one more. You go 4-4. Like the overall goal, I think this year of North Texas fans to go like 3-5 in this conference slate, and we'll get to the rest from here. But it's interesting starting with Navy because, like you said, Navy could very well. This is on the road at Navy, first of all, and Navy could very well pick off North Texas right there, and then you start off 0-1, and you have a brutal slate for the rest of the schedule coming up. But all right, next is Temple. A team who, like I said, I don't know anything about Temple. I mean, in the American on the East Coast. So what do you got on Temple?
Temple's my dark horse this year.
Oh boy.
I'm super intrigued by Temple, and it starts with their quarterback play. I think this could be a top 10 passing offense in college football this year. Their quarterback, EJ Warner, is Kurt Warner's son.
Mm-hmm.
Last year he was a true freshman. And I remember I was covering that UCF game in Orlando when they lost 70-13. You're probably thinking you can't make good takeaways from a team that loses 70-13. But the way he looked as a passer in the first half, I could tell something special was on the rise there. Some of the throws he was making, he finished that game with 24-43, 234 yards, a touchdown without an interception.
Yeah.
Temple had a really horrible run game last year. I think they finished 3rd to last in the country in rushing yards, barely averaged 3 yards a carry. And then the passing game just took a turn toward the end of the season. And while it didn't always result in wins, it resulted in Temple being competitive against good teams. Temple had leads against Houston and East Carolina, 2 teams that went 8-5 in the final 90 seconds of those games. And both of those can be attributed to how good EJ Warner was as a passer. Against Houston, he had 486 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 71% completion rate. Against ECU, 527 yards, 71% completion rate, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. And then there's another game in that November where he defeated South Florida in convincing fashion, 54-28, off of 344 yards and 2 touchdowns on a 75% completion rate. EJ Warner he's going to be an all-conference quarterback, I think. And I think he has a good receiver core to operate. And Temple does a really good job with pass protection. They allowed under 1 sack per game last year. Then defensively, they're a team that really gets to the quarterback, where they had Leighton Jordan still on the roster. They did lose Darian Varner, who was one of their best pass rushers, who transferred to Wisconsin. But Leighton Jordan, who kind of plays that edge rusher position, is going to be key in lifting this pass rush. So this is a team that dominates the trenches, and they have good quarterback play. Now, everything else kind of needs to come in place still. They need better secondary. They need better running game. But I think just having a dominant quarterback can always get you in a good position in the AAC. So I am a big fan of what EJ Warner can bring to this squad.
Put you on the spot real quick. Do you have like a top three quarterbacks in the conference? Is it Frank Harris,
Michael Pratt and
Warner,
Warner.
Michael Bradley? Okay, that's top three. All right. Next up on the schedule is Tulane for North Tech, and this is also at Tulane. So we've already gone through Navy and Temple, who are looking like challenging teams. Now we get Tulane, who just won a damn New Year's Six bowl against USC. Uh, obviously, I think a big thing over the offseason, if I remember correctly, was them keeping Willie Fritz, him saying, I'm staying here, all that good stuff. Do you think Tulane, I know they lost a lot of talent from last year. Do you think that they're going to be right back at the top?
Yes, they have a really good foundation in returning almost the whole offensive line. So having several all AAC guys, Sincere Haynesworth might be as good as any center in the country. He received some All-American nods last year from some selectors. Prince Pines, the left guard, he was first team All AAC last year. You have a really good foundation in the offensive line. And Michael Pratt returns. But the question with Tulane is, how much more is Pratt going to have to do with the offense this year? Because Michael Pratt last year, he was a good, serviceable quarterback where he didn't make many mistakes. He had a 27 touchdown to 5 interception ratio. He had a pretty efficient completion rate other than that USC game, but he was a good runner too, where against USC, he had 83 rushing yards when his passing wasn't really working, picked up some critical first downs in that Cotton Bowl and clutch situations. And he did the same thing against Kansas State last year, the other game where his passing wasn't really working. He had 87 rushing yards. He is a tough, powerful runner, even if he's not the fastest guy on the field. Just a good, cerebral, smart quarterback overall. But the question is, how much more is he going to have to do in the offense this year? Because he didn't have many games where he needed to throw 30 passes last year.
Yeah.
Tulane there had more games, I think, where he had under 200 passing yards and over 300 passing yards, just simply because they didn't need him, because Tyjae Spears was so dominant out of the backfield.
Yeah.
But with Tyjae Spears gone, is the returning line enough to pave pathways for the new running backs? They don't really have a starting running back established. They got Shedro Louis from Liberty as a transfer, and then two incumbent guys in Shady Clayton Johnson and Iverson Celestine. So they don't really have a feature back at this moment. I would guess it would be Shady Clayton Johnson, but the question is going to be more of a pass run split going to move in favor of the pass, because Michael Pratt is the most established guy on that offense now. He does lose two of his top receivers, but I thought that was a pretty deep receiving core last year. We saw it against UCF with guys like Jaquan Jackson and Lawrence Keys making plays. And then defensively, I do think Tulane's still in good shape, other than the linebacking core. The linebacking core loses two of their star players, and Nick Anderson and Dorian Williams, who really spearheaded that unit last year. But they did replace with Tyler Grubbs, a former first-team All-CUSA selection from Louisiana Tech. And they have Corey Platt and Jesus Machado, who I think they had substantial playing time last year. I think they could arise into those roles, even if they can't fill the full shoes that Dorian Williams and Nick Anderson left behind. But overall, I think Tulane's in great shape. I think there's a reason that they're going to be front runners and probably preseason ranked.
Memphis is next, and this is an interesting game because last year North Texas played Memphis on the road in a non-conference game, and it was a game that North Texas lost, but it was a game where Austin Aune threw 2 pick sixes, and Seth Luttrell after the game said, or not after the game, but in that week's press conference said something along the lines of, if you look on paper, I think we actually had a great chance to win the game, and he's not wrong. They outgained them. They by the numbers, they outplayed Memphis. This year, do you expect Memphis to be substantially better, or are they going to look about the same?
I think the AAC clearinghouse of Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston might allow Memphis to look better, as they lost to at least 2 of them off the top of my head last year.
First, they lost to Houston.
They didn't play Cincinnati, but they lost to Houston and UCF. So you clear those losses out of the way and you replace it with a lot of CUSA teams. I think that they should be better inherently by the schedule. The Ryan Silverfield era has been interesting at Memphis. He takes over for Mike Norvell after that Cotton Bowl appearance in 2019. And Silverfield, since the 2020 pandemic season, has been a 500 coach at Memphis. They've had some good talent. Seth Hennigan's another one of those upper echelon quarterbacks, I think, in the conference. He's going into his third year, and I think a lot of quarterbacks make that year 2 to year 3 leap is the most obvious one
Mm-hmm.
that they make as starting quarterbacks. And Hennigan was a pretty good QB. He won a bowl MVP honors in the First Responder Bowl last year after a really efficient game against Utah State. I thought Hennigan did a lot of good work last year. But the problem is Memphis didn't really have skill position guys to complement him. Memphis is a team. You look at their NFL talent and Kenny Gainwell, Daryl Henderson, Tony Pollard, Antonio Gibson. They've put out so much NFL talent in terms of skill positions lately. Calvin Austin, DeMonte Coxey. They didn't have that last year. They only had 3 times where a receiver had 100 yards in a game and 0 times when a rusher had 100 yards in a game.
Wow.
So they really need to amplify the talent around Hennigan this season. I think getting Blake Watson, a running back who's had 1,000-yard season at Old Dominion, had over 900 yards last year. I think getting him in the transfer portal from Old Dominion is really going to help out. They got receivers from the transfer portal who are expected to be day one starters. Toski Dove, who is kind of a deep threat at Mizzou, and then Demir Blankumzy from Toledo. So I think that stocking that talent was the right choice for Memphis this offseason. And Memphis had some bad defenses in recent years when their offense was great. 2018 specifically comes to mind when that team finished 8-6, despite Daryl Henderson scorching earth every single time he touched the field. But I think Memphis's defense has been pretty solid recently. They were about a middle of the pack defense last year. They returned one of their better pass rushers in Jalen Allen, Greg Rubin, who's been a force in the secondary and breaking up passes. Memphis is a team that I would put right below that Tulane UTSA tier, where I think that there's enough talent.
That's pretty high
to make this work. If I had to do a top 5 in the conference, it's Tulane, UTSA. Then I would probably put the SMU, Memphis, FAU is how I would rank them. So I think that Memphis does have a winning record. They bounce back to that up plus 500 territory this year after going 6-6 the last 2 regular seasons. I think Memphis has the right thing going with the squad.
Next, these next 2 teams, we did podcasts with beat writers on. So we have a pretty good handle. And also, I mean, UTSA is up next. I mean, we just know UTSA because North Texas and UTSA butt heads. But I think UTSA is going to be a really good team again, even losing Zachary Franklin, even, losing Sincere McCormick, getting Frank Harris back alone kind of just patches everything up. Their offensive line will also be better than last year, where it was a big concern. And I think defensively with Jeff Traylor, I mean, even with they change coordinators, they change coaches, it feels like their identity's just set. So what do you think about UTSA this year?
They're great. There's not too many holes in this team. I thought their losses last year were pretty self-inflicted, blowing a 21-7 lead at Houston because they convert a 4th and 1. Troy game, it was just turnover after turnover, and they couldn't score despite the offense completely outgaining them and outplaying them. And I think that UTSA just had so many self-inflicted wounds, which cost them games last year. But overall, this team's just stacked. Frank Harris, 2-time CUSA Offensive Player of the Year. He could very well get that award in the AAC in his first year in that conference. Running game, I'm not concerned about because Kavorian Barnes did a great job last year. Offensive line, there's some retooling there, but I still think they have some of the pieces like Ernesto Almaraz as a center, all-conference guy there. DeCorian Clark, Joshua Cephas, that receiving duo is going to be one of the best in the conference, where Zachary Franklin was a great luxury to have, but I don't know if it was a necessity.
It was ridiculous that they had those 3 as receivers. Like that is a P5 receiving core. That's better. That's probably, I didn't look at it in depth, but it's probably a top 15 receiving core in the country last year.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, not quite the Ohio State TCU tier what they had, but it was definitely up there. That's a lot of talent there. Then defensively, you do lose Clifford Chapman, who was a huge playmaker in the secondary, and same as Corey Mayfield Jr. And I think that could be some of the question marks I would have is reloading the secondary and the cornerback position. But Rashad Wisdom returns. He missed about half the season last year with an injury. And Rashad Wisdom has been a ball hawk, heart and soul of the defense for so long. So you have him, Jamal Ligon, who is their leading tackler, then Trey Moore, who is their best pass rusher. they're set in all areas of the defense. This team, just by returning talent alone, and Jeff Traylor's been a great coach. Yeah, UTSA set for the AAC. I don't think there's going to be any year one adjustment that they need because I think they're already ready to compete for a conference title in the New Year's Six Bowl.
Now, a team in SMU, SMU is interesting because I feel like they more than anybody right now, at least from a fan perspective, thinks that they should be the best team in this conference. And I think on paper, they also have the easiest schedule in the conference. They don't play UTSA. They don't play Tulane. They also don't play somebody else off the top of my head. But a fairly easy schedule. Are you – yeah, and we talked about it. You have SMU a tier below Tulane and UTSA. What are your thoughts on SMU this year? Do you think there's a chance they could, go 7-1 in conference with this schedule?
Yeah, you do have, it looks like a 2-2 non-conference schedule you're going to be working with, as Oklahoma and TCU are both road games. But then you have Louisiana Tech and Prairie View A&M in between those. SMU has won some iron skillets recently, and they played TCU pretty close last year. So that rivalry has been interesting to watch. But I do think that they go into AAC play with a 2-2 record. Yeah, looking at the schedule, starting out with Charlotte, an ECU team that loses Holton Ahlers, their starting quarterback, Keaton Mitchell, their starting running back, and their top 3 receivers in terms of receiving yards last year. I think ECU is going to be a team that takes a bit of a slide this year, so I think that's a team that SMU can handle. Temple, Tulsa, Rice, North Texas, Memphis, Navy. That is a super manageable schedule.
Have you looked at that schedule before?
This is the first time I'm really looking at it.
Yes.
And yeah, SMU has never competed in an AAC championship before.
Yeah.
And they've had the talent. Some of those teams with Shane Buechele were really good, and Tanner Mordecai the past few years too. SMU is a team that oftentimes starts hot and finishes cold. As we remember, even dating back to 2019, I think they had that game day against Memphis where they were 7-0, 8-4. And then there was last year a 2021 season on Halloween. I think they were 7-0 or 8-0 going into that October 30th game against Houston.
Feels like they're always ranked after like 5 weeks.
Yes, and then at the end of the year, they lose to like a middling Memphis team or something, and then it just crashes from there. But the thing with SMU is the Preston Stone era is finally here. They've been waiting years for this to happen. But Tanner Mordecai was such a good quarterback. You're not going to bench him for Preston Stone, but him transferring to Wisconsin opens the door for SMU to finally utilize their highest recruit ever at quarterback. We've seen a sample size of Preston Stone, but nothing really substantial, just 48 passes last year, 2 touchdowns. So we need to see more of what Stone is made of. I really like SMU's rushing game. They got Jalen Knighton. They have a lot of transfers from Miami where Rhett Lashley used to coach, on both sides of the ball too, like Elijah Roberts and Jordan Miller on defense, on the defensive line. But they have a lot of transfers from Miami. I think Jalen Knighton's going to be a perfect piece because he's a bit of a receiving running back too. And he's going to be really helpful in what Rhett Lashley likes to run at SMU. Receiving core, they don't have Rashee Rice anymore. They need a number 1 guy to step up, but I think that it's a super deep receiving core still. They just need to find a number 1 guy, whether that's Jordan Curley, who finished second on the team in receiving yards last year, or Jordan Hudson, the TCU transfer, who is just a little buried deep in that TCU stacked receiving core with Quentin Johnston and Darius Davis last year. Yeah. I think that Jordan Hudson or Jordan Curley can become the guy, because Rashee Rice made up 33% of the receiving yards production last year. So they're going to need somebody to take off that load. Defensively, I have some more questions about SMU, as they were not the best defense at times last year. I mean, they won a game 77-63 is all you need to know.
Yeah, they did.
But given their schedule, I think they should have about 5 starters on defense that are coming from the transfer portal. So it's a bit of a revamped unit, but I think that SMU, given their schedule, this is a team that could finally make their first AAC championship game. Because if they go 7-1, I don't know how the tiebreakers would work at that point, but Tulane and UTSA play each other.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Is they play each other. So if there's any slip up on their ends, and this being a North Texas pot, like, hey, they don't even play at FAU either. And I know you're high on FAU, so there's
Mhm.
another one. Um, but this being a North Texas podcast, I'm going to go ahead and set unreal expectations for SMU, so that way if they don't reach it, I can say it was a failure. If they don't go 8-0, I don't know what to tell you. This is if they don't make the conference championship game after the amount of time that they spent talking about going to the Pac-12, after the amount of time they spent saying this conference is not up to our standard, I'm just going to sit here and laugh at them. So there you go. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm ready for. All right, last two. Tulsa, another team I don't know a ton about because as far as the AAC goes, they haven't been really prominent. I think they were prominent one year.
2020, they had
Yeah,
Zaven Collins, who honestly, other than like Ndamukong Suh, I couldn't think of a defender that just had as much impact. This dude would get a game-winning interception or a clutch
yeah.
sack every single game. It was insane. Tulsa won so many one-score games that year with Zaven Collins just doing crazy stuff in all facets of defense. But they haven't been the same team since Collins got drafted by the Cardinals. And Philip Montgomery finally got the boot last year after being on campus for quite some time and having, I think, just 2 seasons above 500, 2016 and 2020. But
Yeah.
Tulsa, they're breaking in a quarterback who we saw flashes of at the end of last year in Braylon Braxton.
I will say for
And
Braylon Braxton, since I never get to talk about Tulsa, I saw Braylon Braxton in high school at Frisco Independence. Man, that guy had a live arm. And the game I went to, they won 75-0. So I don't know if it was a great indicator of how he reads defenses, but yeah, when I saw him in high school, I was like, oh, that guy's going to Tulsa. He'll play there. He'll play.
yeah, I think that there's a lot of hype for him, especially after ending the season last year with two 300-yard passing performances, including one where he beat the Houston Cougars. So I think that Braylon Braxton, there's palpable hype around him as a starting quarterback this year. Now he needs offensive line protection because Tulsa had one of the worst offensive lines in all of college football last year. They had a pretty bad pass rush too. So not being able to thrive in the trenches was Tulsa's biggest problem, and their best players on their offensive line and defensive line both entered the transfer portal. So those are my concerns with Tulsa this year is trench warfare. Are they going to be able to thrive against some of these other teams in terms of the offensive line, defensive line, because that was really a struggle for them last year. And Tulsa also lost a lot of guys in their receiving core. Keelan Stokes, Juan Carlos Santana had been some of the top guys for a while. So now you have Malachi Jones as the new number one receiver. They didn't bring anyone in from the transfer portal there. Running back, they did get Braylon Presley, the brother of Brennan Presley from Oklahoma State. So I think that they might have some talent at running back and to support Braxton in that area of the game, but they really need a better offensive line in order to compete this year. So I'm interested to see how year one of the Kevin Wilson era works. But I think Tulsa is probably going to be one of the bottom four teams in this league.
Yeah, Tulsa also. I remember hearing this, but just because you brought it up, they lost their starting two tackles to
Mhm.
Auburn, both of them. So
Yes.
it's like it's gonna be tough to fill those vacancies in the American. And the last team on North Texas schedule is UAB. Trent Dilfer is now the head coach. They've added a couple intriguing transfers, but personally, even though I've seen North Texas play UAB every year the past 6-7 years, I still don't know what to make of this version of UAB. So, what do you think?
I don't think anyone does. We haven't really seen Trent Dilfer coach at the collegiate level before. He's bringing in a defensive coordinator from his high school, too. So it's going to be a definite twist, I think, from what we saw in the Bill Clark era and even Bryant Vincent era, which was an extension of the Bill Clark era. Now the quarterback is new this year. They're going to have Jacob Zeno probably start. He started 2 games last year. They'll have Landry Liddy from Louisiana Tech compete for the position, but I think Zeno is going to be the guy who ultimately emerges number one. Former Baylor guy too, who played in the 2019 Big 12 championship
Mm-hmm.
game against Oklahoma when Charlie Brewer and Gary Bohannon had some injuries in that game. So Jacob Zeno is probably going to be the starting quarterback. We saw him throw for 300 yards against UTSA last year. Some mixed performances from him. So I need to see a bit of a larger sample size to know how he can thrive as UAB starting quarterback. But I do think that the running game should be in good shape just with the presence of Jermaine Brown Jr. alone.
Yeah.
Even if you lose Dwayne McBride, who had the highest rushing average of any 1,000-yard back last year, was pretty much top 3 in every rushing category. Jermaine Brown Jr. still had enough leftover usage to get almost 1,000 yards last season. And he played pretty well in that Bahamas Bowl when McBride sat. So I'm confident in their rushing game. They do lose all 5 offensive linemen starters from last year, which is pretty crazy.
Substantial.
So that's one thing I really notice about this UAB team. Defense, there's a lot of guys they lose to, like Noah Wilder, their star linebacker. They still have one of their 4 All-USA selections returning, and that's Fish McWilliams, who's the big nose tackle who clogs it in the middle, does a really good job with that. So I think that he should provide enough to try to get a pass rush spark going on defense. And UAB's, they've really made their mark on defense in recent years. They had one of the better passing defenses in the country last year. And that's really where UAB establishes their brand. But I think this year's team is such a wild card toss-up with losing all those linemen, having a new starting quarterback in Jacob Zeno, not having that safety net in Dwayne McBride, who's going to put up 200 rushing yards every single game anymore, and losing some substantial talent in the linebacker room, etc. So I do think that UAB is a bit of a wild card this year. This team hasn't had a losing record since football was reinstated in 2017, but I think this year is going to be the toughest one yet to keep that streak afloat.
Yeah, I mean, going from Bill Clark to Trent Dilfer just is a massive. I'm not even gonna say a downgrade because we don't know what Trent Dilfer is. Maybe he's great, but it's just a massive change in what we know about UAB at this point. So that's gonna be interesting. All right, those are the 8 AAC games for North Texas. I said going in, me putting my rational hat on, I think if North Texas can go 3-5 in this schedule, I think that's a win because you look at the non-conference schedule. There's a, La Tech, FIU, and Cal, and then FCS. Like those, if they can go 3-1 in non-conference, 3-5 in conference, you get 6-6 in year 1 under Eric Morris. I think that's a really positive year. But now talking to you, now I'm scared that they're going to go like 0-8 or something, and it's like I don't know what's going to happen. But if you had to pick the 3 wins here, let's just say they win 3 games. If you had to pick the 3 wins here, which 3 are you taking for North Texas?
I'll take Navy. I'll take Navy.
Okay.
I'll take Tulsa. And either UAB or Temple, one of those home games.
I think Temple's on the road, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a home game, but their home schedule's not easy. You got Memphis, UTSA is 2 of their homes.
Yeah, but they got Temple and UAB at home at least.
Yeah,
so if you can win one, I mean, if you win both of them, then you're 4-4 in conference. It's a great year. 3, if you can win one of those, I think that's the realistic path here. Is you get Navy, Tulsa, UAB probably, and then Temple.
I think they go 3-1 in non-conference schedule. Louisiana Tech kind of struggled in year 1 under Sonny Cumbie last year, although the Bulldogs could make some strides, but I think they should be favored over FIU, Louisiana Tech, and then you should beat your FCS opponent always.
Yeah. It's funny because we joke North Texas left Conference USA and then had La Tech and FIU on the schedule, so we're just extending Conference USA a little bit more there.
Cal is Cal at home. That is a manageable week 1 opponent.
Very, very much manageable. It's not. I don't know what the spread is going to be. I should probably have looked that up at some point, but I would assume it's like probably Cal, like what 7, something like that, something reasonable, 7-8. Somewhere in that 7-10 range, maybe. Mm-hmm. I don't think Cal's. I mean, when North Texas played Cal, when was that?
2019.
2019. Damn. Yeah, 2019. It was a manageable game. Like it was North Texas didn't look overpowered. They didn't look overwhelmed. That Cal team, I have no clue what Cal looks like this year yet, but like that was a Cal team that only played defense, had no offensive talent, and Cal just kind of wore them down to an extent. So it's like and this is intentional. Like we know the athletic directors and stuff like that. They did this on purpose. There's a reason you can go 4-0 in this non-conference schedule if things go right for you. So that would be a real interesting turn. Is if you're 4-0, You play Navy, you're 5-0. You play Temple, you're 6-0. I'm just saying, Steve.
Yeah.
Steve, I don't know. I've talked myself into 6-0 now.
Yeah, we saw Houston and UCF are kind of doing similar things to their non-conference schedules in year one of Big 12, kind of trying to keep that bowl hopes alive and
Early.
not scheduling a really tough non-conference opponent in there. So, yeah, I think that's good to call from North Texas in year one of the AAC, especially in a transitioning time for the program to do that.
Yeah. All right, Steve. Thank you for joining me, man. This has been a lot of fun. Like I said earlier, y'all can check out Steve's work, SB Nation, Underdog Dynasty. What's your Twitter handle?
At S_Helwick.
There we go. S_Helwick. But yeah, Steve, thanks for joining me, man. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here. Appreciate it.
For sure. Well.
Damn it, Brune.
Have you seen that TikTok where it's the South Park episode? It's Eric Hartman. Boo. No. Okay. You gotta get on TikTok.
That's me. No, I don't need to get on TikTok because I will never get off of it. That's
why
I
don't have TikTok. I get on the Instagram Reels.
That's why I had to get off Instagram. I deleted Instagram for that reason. I'm really sorry. That's bad.
Man, look at Colin Mitchell.
It's the first time late since Rice.
I was about to say this and Rice. That's 2 strikes, buddy.
2 strikes.
That's 2 strikes.
Honestly, that's pretty good over the course of 8 years.
Yeah, 8 years, Colin. Are we that old?
I don't know. I'm just assuming 2015 with everything because that's when college started. We'll say 6.
We'll say 7.
7. No. So my phone was at like 10% last night, and I was in bed, and I was like, "It'll be fine." It wasn't fine. Woke up in a panic. I woke up naturally, and I was like, "Oh, this is nice." And I was like, "Wait, if I woke up naturally, it's either 2 o'clock, or it's really early." And it wasn't in between. I got up and I was like, "Oh, it starts at 11:30. I'll be all right." So I brushed my teeth, sat down, scrolled through your messages, and I was like, "Why hasn't he called me?" And I was like, "Oh, it was at 11." I was like, "Dang it!"
Oh boy. No, Steve was really good. It was long, about 40 minutes, but we went through all the teams in the conference. I'm gonna be able to timestamp them and everything.
Big.
Or not all teams in the conference, all teams on our schedule.
Yeah.
And it kind of scared me a little bit. Whenever you listen to it, you'll know. But he's high on like Temple and
high on Temple,
Memphis, and so I'm like, oh, shit. Okay, but all right. What are we doing? I
don't know. You told me to join, and I was expecting to get just chastised.
Yeah, I mean, I'm leaving all that in.
That's perfectly fine. I mean, the people need to know why I wasn't here. You know.
We need to talk. We need to talk about the care package, Colin. That's why
I'm here.
That's why you're here, because there has been an atrocity. There's been I don't know what happened, who we wronged. But let me share my. Actually, no, I'm not gonna share my screen. So Colin and I have been texting over the past 2 weeks. We had JD Davis on last week. We were joking with him. We're like, "Hey man, how'd you get one of those care packages? North Texas sent you. How'd you do that?" He said, "Oh, you just keep tagging them." He jokingly and stuff, but it's pretty clear. Somebody from the athletic department reached out. It was like, "Hey, here's a care package. Here you go." I was like, "All right, JD, I can live with that." I see some other people start getting them, and I was like, "Okay." They're North Texas alumnus, so it kind of makes sense.
I don't know the technical word, but yes, they went to UNT.
They went to UNT. Well, here's the thing, Colin. We went to UNT.
We did. We did go to UNT.
And I'm tired of the Mayborn. I'm tired of everybody acting like we didn't go to UNT.
Yeah.
We are doing journalistic work right now.
This all goes back to me not donating that $5 at graduation. Not checking that box.
You didn't donate the $5?
I did not check that box. Yeah. That could be it. So my UNT social credit's down right now.
Look, we know people that aren't even journalists anymore that they reach out to, be like, "Hey, hope you're doing well. Hey, you want to come speak? Hey, this and that." I'm over here.
Yeah, you're doing stuff.
Trying my best.
Yeah.
And I can't get a care package.
Yeah, I gave up on the journalism part except for this. But I got all my press passes over there.
Yeah, Colin can't get a care package. We
Mhm.
covered some of the biggest moments in North Texas history.
Check out that picture right behind you. That's Grant right there.
We covered a freaking NCAA tournament winning team in Indiana.
Yep.
We were there. We stole these signs.
We did. Yeah, mine are over there. We did steal
stole
those
these
signs. I stole signs from the Heart of Dallas Bowl from 2015.
Like,
they're right there too.
Yeah. We've been there since day one, and we can't get a care package, North Texas. So what we did is we accrued a list of everybody who's gotten a care package.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna say whether it's right or wrong. A lot of these people are doing great things. They're all great people, I'm sure, 100%. Starting with JD and Sonoy, those are our boys, right?
Yeah,
those are our boys. We love them, so they deserve a care package. All these people deserve care packages. I just want a care package. I don't understand. We've waited too long.
No, I lied. One of them doesn't deserve a care package.
Oh God.
When we get there.
All right, here's the list of people who have gotten a care package.
What are we gonna do? Like a thumbs? Like, should we do like a thumbs up or a thumbs down, like Caesar style?
I thought we were just. I thought you didn't want to get into the weeds.
No, it's not the weeds. It's like a have. Are we on that same level?
Okay, on the same level.
Yeah. Like
right.
Ben Baby, for example, I'd say we're probably not on the same level. Ben Baby is on ESPN.
Ben Baby. Good.
Yeah,
Good
thumbs
job,
up.
Ben. Good job, Ben. That's my guy. I've talked to him twice.
Yeah.
Good guy. JD Davis. 100%.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Sonoy Valente. Thumbs up. We love him. GoMeanGreen.com was a little interesting. And I don't know if that's just JD tweeting from the Go Mean Green, but I don't think it is. I think it's a separate account. GoMeanGreen.com tweeted out their care package. And I'm like, I need to know
what that means, because if that's everybody at GoMeanGreen.com and you still didn't get one, that's...
No, it's like Go Mean Green doesn't even have a name. They just sent out a care package to a message board site.
The address,
which we love. We love Go Mean Green.
Yeah,
but it sent it out. They said, "Who runs this?" DMs them.
I'll give a thumbs up because people on there are dedicated.
Yeah, we love them. All right, shout out Go Mean Green. Mallory Hartley and Ashley Pickle. Thumbs up. Dave Campbell's North Texas alums, still doing work with North Texas. That's a big thing. I feel like that's underrated here is people that do stuff still covering North Texas.
Yeah,
us. Like we check both boxes, alumni and cover North Texas still.
Yep.
Like we're checking those boxes.
You don't even have to. You don't even have to. Kyle.
We don't have to. We don't.
Kyle Humans.
Kyle Humans. Thumbs up. We respect Kyle Humans over here. We love Kyle. He's doing a great job with the Cowboys. The Dallas Wings, Colin.
Yeah.
The Dallas Wings might be the first one.
This is the first thumbs down. This is.
It's like if the Mavericks got one, like why are the Dallas Mavericks or Dallas Wings getting a care package?
Yeah, who are you giving a care package at the Dallas Wings? Thumbs down.
It's one thing if Jalen Mitchell coached there or something like that, but this is just the Wings organization. This is just you trying to get clout.
Yeah, not good enough.
Not good.
That brings us to our next sports team, the Frisco Rough Riders. Thumbs down.
Thumbs down.
Yeah, what are we doing here? I've been to a Rough Riders game. I don't see any UNC anything anywhere.
They're not promoting them.
Yeah, we don't have a baseball team at North Texas. What are we doing? Come on.
we don't support baseball in North Texas. What is this? Now we're just giving it to the Frisco Rough Riders. Frisco is a nice 45 minutes away from Denton.
It's less, but we'll say
40 minutes away.
We'll say 30, but
Colin, it's not 30. I've driven that road a billion times to get to you and McKinney, and I know it's closer than McKinney, but it's not 30. I don't care what the phone says.
This is the one that's a person that's a thumbs down. Man, I'm not gonna be able to pronounce that first name. Michaela, that's how you say it. Okay, I was gonna say Michaela. That wouldn't have made the cut. Only reason. Shout out you being a UNT alum, but SMU alum. Not going to cut it.
SMU alum. You can't.
Not going to cut it.
I don't care if you got your undergrad, your master's. It doesn't matter because in the tweet, Michaela says, I'm also an SMU alum. Like you didn't have to say you're an SMU alum.
Now I can support.
Yeah, now I can support. So before she's like, oh, I can put this alongside all of my SMU stuff.
You know what happened to that care package when she got it? She took a picture and then threw it away.
Yeah.
Michaela threw it away. In the trash can under her SMU.
Oh my god. She, like it's not even like a house divided type thing. Like this isn't like the husband wife, type. This is like both hers, SMU, North Texas. And I'm not gonna lie, I can't. North Texas, SMU, we don't do that. All right.
Yeah, it's almost like someone getting a UT, like we're graduating from UTSA, and then like getting one, and that would be probably equally as bad.
Yes. So yeah, that's the third thumbs down in a row. Sorry, Michaela. I'm sure you're a great person. Texas State representative. I don't know anything about her. I don't know if she's great. Whatever. The next ones are all alumni and got people that do sports stuff in the area.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're all alumni, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Makowski, freelance sports broadcaster. I'm not gonna lie, don't know anything about him. Has about 1,600 followers on Twitter. Looks like he's a good person. Sure, good for you, Chris. But again,
now this is when the lines get a little grayed out.
Again,
this is
it's not like we're not doing anything here. We're putting our heart into this. It is July 11th, Colin, and we're making North Texas content. We are making North Texas content. Like Ben Baby's up at ESPN doing big things. The Bengals, awesome. He's not making North Texas content. If you looked up the tweets of all of these people, not all of these people, not including, the people we gave thumbs up earlier, but of like the last, I'll go through the list here. Sean Bass, sports radio host, Noheli Galindo, digital marketing for the Rangers, Layla Rahimi, sports anchor for NBC Chicago, Ted Emmerich, ESPN play-by-play guy. If you look at the tweets of all the last 6 people here, when's the last time they tweeted about North Texas?
I'm scrolling through Chris right now.
When's the last time
I saw a CFL tweet just now?
They're
and
not
guess what?
in the trenches interviewing people about AAC football.
It's not even about Mason.
Oh, I bet he hasn't even tweeted about Mason since 2019.
Let's see if he's ever even tweeted about Mason. This is bad. I'm sorry. I don't want to single out Chris, but I'm going to do it.
Right, he's gonna.
Yeah, I'm already here.
Oh Lord, Chris, all these people are great people. Look, the bottom list is a little gray area. We're not giving them a thumbs down, right? We're cool, but I'm just saying we have put in the legwork over the past 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
We are UNT alumnus,
whatever the word is,
alumni.
Yeah, no tweet about Mason Fine, by the way, 0.
And we can't get a DM. Our DMs are open.
Now they are. I will say they weren't before, but
They weren't open initially, but like 2 weeks ago, I opened them up.
Yeah.
And we can't get a DM being like, "Hey, where can we send a care package?" You know what? Now I want 2 care packages.
This
Colin.
is my plea. This is my plea to whoever is the care package connoisseur.
Yeah.
What do we have to do?
Who decides this? I want 2 care packages. I want one for Colin. I want one for me. That's what I want. I
thought that was always what was on the table. I mean, if we're being honest.
Oh, yes. But at the very least, we should have got one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying. But that's the list of people who have care packages. We will continue to update y'all on the care package counter. We'll have a little
care package counter. Yeah.
We'll have a little ticker at the bottom of the care package people. Shout out to all of North Texas alumni. We love you all. Y'all
don't actually hate these people. I just hate that I don't have. I envy you.
Frisco Rough Riders.
Yeah, no, actually, no. I hate the Frisco Rough Riders.
And we might hate the Frisco Rough Riders.
I could say I hate the Frisco Rough Riders. Just kidding. Yeah, I could definitely do that. That's
for getting a care package instead of us. This is complete jealousy for everybody else on this list. Everybody else, we were just jealous. The Dallas Wings, hope y'all do great. But it's like, did the Mavericks get one? Did the Cowboys get one?
Cowboys got the deal. You know what I mean? They already got the. Jerry don't care about care packages.
Did Dak Prescott get one? What is this? Everybody should have just got one then. Hand them out. And then you have the audacity to tweet out, you can buy your Take Flight shirts here. I'm not buying my Take Shirt Flight.
I would have if they weren't given out for free. I only buy all my new clothes are only North Texas clothes at this point. I haven't bought a new shirt that wasn't North Texas in probably 4 years.
Yeah. So that's how Colin lives, in case y'all wonder.
I mean, y'all have seen this shirt at least 847 times.
I don't even have that shirt anymore. No, I have the shirt, but it's in a box.
Yeah.
That is.
It's in a box.
Incredible. That's when Grant gave that to us in the 2018 season or something like that.
Yes.
Remember? We interviewed Grant. Grant was like, "Hey, you know what? Get these guys some shirts."
Get these guys some shirts.
We were like, "Oh my gosh, we got shirts."
Mm-hmm.
Now look at us. We can't even get a care package.
You kind of think about it. All these care packages to all these media people. Is that a little, I don't know, unethical? Just kidding. No, we took shirts, from Grant after interviewing.
So we are not above bribery.
I'm not even gonna say. No, I love shirts.
No, sir.
We're slogging it out here as journalists.
We took the shirts. And I would call Jared Mosley right now, but we're not on the Ren Baker level where I just call him and he's gonna pick up probably. I don't know. I've never cold called him before. That would be crazy, but I'm sure he's busy. And I will not be calling Ren Baker after everything.
That would be tough. What was your first cold call to Ren?
Oh, I'm not going to talk about what we talked about, but he cold called me once. I was like, "Hello."
I remember that.
Like, and then
but I was asking what your cold call was.
A lot of stuff. We went through a lot of stuff, but I don't remember what the cold call was. It was probably early on. It was probably I called him during the Grant stuff 2 years ago when SMU was a rumor. I was like, "Hey, man, is this happening?" He was like, "No." I was like, "Okay, good." That was our conversation. But anyways, yeah. So I know it's not Jared Mosley here making these decisions, but maybe just whoever makes these decisions is only looking up, I don't know, prominent people. Like they're Googling prominent people from North Texas and just sending them care packages. And we're not there.
Could someone have it out for us?
Think about who we've wronged.
Mm-hmm.
Think about who we've wronged. All right. There is a chance. There's a chance somebody could have it out for us. I'm not putting it past them. Kyla Powell.
It's gonna be like some really obscure name that like we've mentioned like 4 times or always gets like it's gonna be like Andrew McNulty is gonna somehow be like Alec Morris.
I'm thinking about all the people that we've said sucked.
Jaylen Brown.
Somehow.
Decky Johnson.
But anyways, that's our care package rant.
Yeah.
We've been sitting on that for 3 weeks. Hope you all had enjoyed that.
I'm glad I could come on here and do something.
Yeah, I'm glad Colin could contribute to this episode of the podcast in some way, shape, or form. But that's it, I think. I'll let Colin go listen to what me and Steve talked about because I think it was pretty interesting. All I'll say is I left that conversation both feeling good and feeling bad at the same time. I feel like the variance that I now have in the 8-game schedule is a lot higher than where I was. Like I could see this team going 1-7, and I could see them also going like 5-3.
Yeah, that was even my question if I was going to join is like, what's the outsider's perspective that doesn't cover the team on a day-to-day?
Don't worry, I asked him that.
That's good. I'll be sure to listen for that answer.
Yeah. So there you go. Thank you for everybody joining the podcast, for listening, for checking us out. Continue to use that home field apparel discount code because who needs a care package, right? You got home field. Just go click it.
No. Wait. We can't say that yet until it is confirmed that we are not getting a care package.
Okay, you're right. We still want a care package.
But yeah, still use home field though, for sure.
Still use home field.
Yeah, still use home field.
I'm waiting on some I might look at some Kansas State stuff with Tyler and Tang over there. Basketball.
That's good. You gonna stoop down to Tech? That's tough.
I don't know if I can do that.
It's the wound's a little fresh after seeing Grant in that red pullover.
But
I'll never
Tyler
forget
Perry
that.
I can support at Kansas State.
I'm waiting for my stuff to get here.
It'll get there, Colin. Don't worry.
I want the hoodie. I already have a whole bit played out in my mind for our next ad read.
For our next ad read? Yeah, that's what we're waiting.
It's supposed to be here soon, I guess. So,
all right. Well, there you go. Next week, be on the lookout. New ad read coming.
Yeah, it's basically better than the podcast itself. So,
new ad read dropping.
Yeah.
All right. That's all we got for y'all today. Hope y'all enjoyed the episode. Leave us a like, comment, share, subscribe. Check us out on the Republic of Football podcast feed. But the YouTube is our main thing. Is what we really enjoy doing. We really enjoy giving y'all the visuals so you can see Colin in a dark room You can see my camera get out of focus half the time, and yeah, all that
I'll
good
be in a
stuff.
Lightroom soon though.
Don't tease them, Colin.
Yeah.
Don't tease them. Here we go.
Trying to buy a house,
don't
folks.
count your chickens before they hatch.
They hatch. Hey, there's one step left.
Well, a lot of things,
A lot of things can go wrong. No, trust me. I've been hit with a ringer. Just one haymaker after another.
All right. We'll talk to y'all later.